You're listening to a Time Machine podcast. Old Movie Time Machine. An adventure through time and or space. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Old Movie Time Machine. This is the show you should know by now. It's episode 50, everybody, in which we use color films made between the years of 1945 and 1965, made in the United States of America, like 93% of the time. Sometimes we go abroad, see what's happening there. And we use these movies as windows into the past. We throw these windows open, we climb through to the other side, and we explore the world beyond the window. What will we find? Who will we find? Well, we're going to find some people there. And while we are visiting them, we're going to be asking ourselves some critical questions about them, such as, these people we're visiting, who are they? Who are these people? What are their habits? How are they treating each other? What decisions are they making and why are they making them? And then inarguably, data has proven at this point, we have gathered the data. And at this point, we know that the most important critical question beyond the ultimate vital question is, what are they wearing and what do their living rooms look like? It's a very special episode today because we are wrapping up the season. I would like to address our beloved patrons over at our Patreon page. We call it the Boom Room, of course. We want to thank you for a lovely year together. We have paused your billing cycles. We paused it last month. Maybe you didn't notice. It is only $2. It is like nothing. It is like air to you. But we paused your billing cycle because we realized we took May off by mistake. Just it happened. We just ended up taking May off. So this shit will happen. So anyway, you're not going to get charged until we start bringing you new, fresh, incredible material that you have become accustomed to. So this episode, this is a deluxe full-length episode for the main feed to just wrap things up for everybody. And we want to also address astute and beloved listener, I want to say Kyle. Oh, hold on. Let me find out what this guy's name is real quick.
We should get his name right because he's number one.
He is number one. It is Kyle Heller.
Hey.
And he emailed at Party Line?
Yes, Kyle, astute,
amazing,
engaged listener Kyle, emailed us at partyline@oldmovietimemachine.com. It's a real inbox, you guys. This is the proof. And just said a lot of nice things about the program, and we appreciate his listenership, of course. Kyle, you rock, Kyle. And also, Kyle, you requested some films. I am pleased to report that your number one request is happening today because we are talking about 1963's It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. There are 4 mads in this title. And actually, I think the director thought it might be funnier to have one more, but they took it out by mistake. I don't know. Anyway, it's 4 mads at this point, and that's where we are at today. I'm your host, by the way, through time and or space, Justin Zeppa, joined as ever by my incredible and infallible panel of international experts at being human in the early 21st century. We are doing a special dial-in episode today. So let me just start with who's pinned to the screen right now. It's my sister and yours, Carolyn Naoroz, coming to you from across the Atlantic Ocean. Hey, sis, welcome to the program.
Hey there.
Nice to see you again. And then also in the window, we have, you know her and you love her. She's dialing in from the cat corner. Katherine Sherlock is in the house. Hey, Katherine.
Hello.
Welcome to the program. Glad you could join us. Oh, and Solon is there as well. He is curled up in a ball in a little... Katherine is poking the cat. He looks mildly annoyed, but is also just sitting right back down again in his sun patch, as a cat will do. And of course, next to Katherine and Solon is the one and only Shrishma Naik. Hey, Shrishi Boo, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going?
Well, we're just pretty excited here for episode 50. Congratulations.
It's a big milestone.
It really is. We've had quite a year. We have gone on a lot of adventures. I've been collating the data that we have gathered. I have been working on our list of artifacts in the museum. It is a shocking amount of artifacts that we have gathered over the past year. For our free feed listeners, this is what you get over as bonus material at the Boom Room, is that while we're on our adventures, we gather artifacts from the places and times that we're visiting, and then we bring them back to modern times to put into our beautiful museum called the Boom Room, which is also the Patreon. And as you can see, the snake eats its little commerce tail. And that's how we like it, everybody. One big ecosystem of you and me and everybody else all together. Yeah,
yes,
right.
Big Ouroboros. Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's called, the Ouroboros. Yes. And that's what we are here. Welcome to Ouroboros Movie Time Machine. Guys, I'm really excited about today's movie. It's really kind of a Justin's choice. I mean, it does fall into the parameters of our program, but I mean, this would be, if somebody asked me, well, play for me one of your favorite movies and we will talk about it, this will be on them. This is on my short list of all-timers. Not to spoil the ending or whatever, but I fucking love this movie. But I need to know what everybody else thinks. I have made you all go through the process of watching It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. And I would like to know what you think in the span of one line, if possible. Carolyn Naoroz, my dear sister, do you have a one-line review for It's a Mad, 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 Mad World?
This movie is the source of all of my anxiety.
Boy,
I could see that.
For whatever reason would that be, I wonder? Is it because it was next to The Ghost of Mr. Chicken, the second loudest movie ever made?
So you know, when you announced this and you said, hey, this is what we're going to watch, I had this moment of like my chest tightening. And I was like, oh, I have this
interesting
movie
response.
Gives me like a trigger response. And so then as soon as I started it and that soundtrack came on, I was like, oh, this is so triggering. This is like the movie that I used to be like, oh my God, we're going to be in the desert watching a car chase for like the first half of this film. Yeah, and I grew up on this and I I know exactly what happens. And I like immediately remembered all of it. And I was like, this is so stressful. I'm so anxious and stressed right now. And then I realized, I was like, that's how it made me feel as a kid. But I couldn't verbalize that.
Sure. Yeah. It's a very messy movie.
Oh my God.
It's noisy.
It's so loud.
I mean, for me, like on this note, for me, it's the Crumps getting locked in the hardware store basement and then getting covered with paint and getting blown up and set on fire and all this stuff like that.
Chicken soup and all that stuff.
I get it. I understand. So as we talk about the movie this evening, I hope you will point out the moments that are most triggering for you.
A lot of it has to do with driving in the desert and the cars passing one another. Just to start off with, I said when I was watching it, I texted Justin and said, this movie starts off at every other normal movie's third act, which is always supposed to trump the first two acts. And then that means its second and third act only get wilder and wackier and more stressful.
Right.
Watching it.
Yeah.
And
it gives you the elusive fourth and fifth acts, which most movies never get around to, which is just everything compiles into worseness.
The only film that gives me this kind of like anxiety trigger response.
Okay. It's good to know. Thank you so much for sharing. Shrishma Naik, do you have a one-line review for Mad, Mad World? We're going to shorten it to two Mads and just a world. Mad, Mad World.
You could do like Mad squared.
Mad quartered? Because it's four Mads? Mad to the fourth power?
Cubed.
Mad cubed. Mad cubed, yeah. Okay.
That's another dimension.
Or Mad squared. Okay, anyway. So my one-line review is this movie is really chaotic. And it was a whole lot of white people doing a lot of very white people things. For sure. Yep. Surprise. It's 1963. And I think this was like more like white dudes doing a lot of white dude stuff, but there was a few ladies sprinkled in between.
Treated so well throughout.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then definitely kind of stress-inducing because I think there are two instances where they were in a plane that was unmanned. I think. manned by someone maybe
who
not
didn't know how to fly,
capable to
exactly
fly whatever plane, right? And many times the plane actually not being capable of being flown just in itself, in the case of the biplane. But okay, yes, true.
And
all
that's
of
one of my and flying and like crashing is definitely a fear that I hold in life.
So this is okay. So all of the Benji and Dingy in the plane with the drunk man, like, were you freaking out? I mean, because that is.
I was just like, I was freaking out because not freaking out because I know it was a movie, but like the thought of being in a plane where someone doesn't have control of the thing, like, has always scared me. Like, the fact that we blindly have faith that these airline people know what the fuck they're doing and we fly so, all the time.
I just try not to think about it.
So it's just a closed, like, you just don't open that door. And so watching this and like any other kind of like where there's no control, it's really like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Shrishma, we don't really have control. It's all a fallacy. I mean, just saying, it's all an illusion.
Absolutely.
Everything.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, great. We're going to be talking about this at length. Katherine Sherlock, do you have a one-line review for Mad, Mad World?
Yes, let me just look in my book and see what I've written down.
Oh, you wrote things down for this one. Good.
I write things down for all of these things because I have no memory.
She's always organized.
Yeah.
Right. So what I have is intolerable. I can expand.
Please.
I wish you would. Please. Yeah, please.
Utterly intolerable.
I kind of had a feeling. Okay.
Yeah.
The utterly really does drive the point home, though.
I feel bad, Justin, because I know you really like this one, so I tried.
No, I totally
didn't
understand.
try at all, Shrishma. I couldn't even get through it. Like a whole bunch of it I watched on mute because I just could not stand the sounds.
So loud.
And then it got to, I thought it must be done. And then it got to the interlude.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, what?
Why?
Oh, exactly. Why is any of this necessary?
Well,
and then and at that point I'm like, no more.
Yeah.
I also had a new understanding based on, which I didn't have as a child, obviously. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many times we watched this film, Justin, but it was a lot. But the detective, the Captain
Culpepper, yes.
Yes,
Spencer
Captain
Tracy.
Culpepper. Yes, Spencer Tracy. I realized, I was like, oh, he's trying to get a better pension plan.
Yeah.
And then this is his, but I didn't realize it as a kid. And now I'm like, I'm so deeply entrenched in talking about law enforcement pension plans that I'm like,
You're suddenly very invested in.
I was very invested. I was like,
world.
They should triple it.
I mean,
I would steal this.
It's been almost 30 years since they raised that pension. Unbelievable.
I was like, God, this city sucks. The city administration sucks.
Yes. All of this and more is.
It added a whole new level of anxiety for me, like an adult level.
It is an adult level of anxiety. Well, okay. Let me give you my one-line review real quick, and then we're going to start talking about it for real. So, one-line review, and it's
I have an HR subject to bring up before we actually launch into it. But go ahead, Justin.
Okay. My one-line review, I've used it before. It's been quite some time, actually, but I am going to dust it off and use it here. Is this my favorite movie? ? Because I love this movie. And I know it's not a good movie, and that's why I apologize, and I'm sorry for everybody, because I knew going in that, like, these guys are going to fucking hate this movie. And knowing everything I know about you guys and everything that we have experienced together over the past year on our journeys, I know what you like and what you don't like. And I know that there's plenty to not like about this movie. However, not unlike the Ghostbusters scenario or Ghost and Mr. Chicken, this is like formative for me. So this has programmed me as a human being in a way, as far as like we were talking about during those episodes, like speech patterns and line readings and the way that people express things, like all of that. So much of this movie is programmed into me and my own just self-expression in a weird way, because, Carolyn, you just brought it up. This is a very grown-up movie in a way, and yet it's a movie for babies, right? It's just cars crashing and racing each other and people shouting and being mean. And, it's a treasure hunt and a race at the same time. And all these things are very kind of juvenile. It's Goonies, but with grown-ups, But there's family dynamics at play, marriage dynamics at play, friendship dynamics at play, work dynamics, and they're all very adult. Yes, for such a silly premise, it's weird to think of. Okay, so the backstory of me in this movie, for people who did not grow up in the same house, is this movie we had on VHS tape. This movie was taped off of a television broadcast, the copy that we had anyway. So I remember, the movie itself, but also I remember all the commercial breaks too. And I remember the bumpers, they would have trivia bumpers about the movie. And this is, it must have been recorded off of television 1986, I want to say, somewhere around there. And this is a movie that also kind of found its legs through television because it was just shown throughout the 70s, apparently, which I was not aware of. But it's certainly where I saw it was off of TV, which is crazy to think about, the ratio, the pan and scan that had to be done for this, since it was filmed in ultra panavision. It's the widest of widescreens, and yet you were getting, and it has 14 main characters, but you're only getting just a fraction of the screen of whoever happens to be talking at the moment. So it's just weird to think that I watched the very small version of this. Also, this was my sick day movie. So when I got to stay home sick from school, this is what I would watch, because at almost 3 hours long, it felt like forever. Yeah. It was like living a lifetime, basically. So I would just be sick on the couch with my 7-Up and my saltines. I think it's affected my mental health. So it's made many sick days in my life. Yeah. And because then immediately I was just like, oh my God, this movie's so long. Oh, it's so, but this is a movie.
They could have cut out all 3 hours, frankly.
When we get to the part on the fire ladder, I
probably didn't get it exactly.
Oh my God.
Anyways.
Catherine. It's,
are these are all supposed to be famous comedians of the time?
Yes. Now, you say that as a question, so it makes me ask you a question in return. Do you recognize any of these people?
I do not.
Okay.
But is one of the guys the guy from the Ghost and the Chicken movie? Don Knotts, right?
Yes, that's he makes a cameo. Phil Silvers just steals his car, straight up lies to him and steals his car in this movie. Yes. Okay. That is Don Knotts. So everybody who at that point was famous for being Deputy Barney Fife on the Andy Griffith Show. So all of these comedians in this movie, for the most part, kind of made their bones in television, early television.
So is that probably why it became, as TV then got into reruns at a certain point in a longer TV viewing day, that then when they replayed this movie, people would have still recognized these folks in the 70s and 80s?
It's possible. People would have known about this movie. It was a big deal when it came out. The only reason that it's not,
I wish we could do Dial a Parent, because I feel like one of our parents would have more backstory on why this was recorded and all of its 3 hours of glory for us, because it would have been something they grew up on.
Yeah, true. Well, and in those days, of course, of early television, and the 70s, I would still consider to be early television. Anything pre-cable, when you've only got 3 or 4 channels. In those days, they would play movies just to fill time, because we don't have programs yet to fill this time. So it's a 3-hour movie. Great. That's a Saturday afternoon. Saturday is booked, everybody. We're doing Mad World. So don't worry about it. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we had this collection of those movies that were just taped. I mean, I can remember the label, the hand lettering on the label of what that looked like for It's a Mad, Mad Minute with all the Mads in it.
Whose handwriting? Was it Dad's?
I think it was Dad's. Yes.
Because he had the engineering handwriting.
Yes, I believe that was the case.
Okay. I feel like at some point we're going to need to do a follow-up on this of you talk to our parents.
Yeah, or see if I can find videotape. It wouldn't surprise me if I hung on to it. So yeah, Sick Day movie. It's 3 hours long, and it has a bunch of television people in it. We can run through the cast real quick. I mean, we don't have to linger on it, of course, but I mean, Milton Berle plays Russell Finch. Of course, he's kind of like the default main character, probably one of the more famous people in the movie. He's the guy, Shrishma, wearing the nautical cap, who's selling the seaweed with the aggressive
driving the land yacht with his aggressive mother.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm working hard and trying to keep the cost down.
Yeah, you were working hard trying to keep the cost down the day that you ran out of your office and stood in the street screaming, "Mother!" Oh, Emmeline, shut up! And you too!
Oh.
And
honestly, I must say I lost track of the people, but okay. I did my best to keep up.
That whole family dynamic is great because it's the crazy mother-in-law and then the good-for-nothing brother-in-law.
Yes. Oh, Sylvester, of course.
Sylvester,
I mean,
the partier.
Oh my God. There's just so much,
there's so much with him.
That shit makes me laugh so hard. There's stuff that still makes me laugh that I think is still some of the funniest stuff ever made. I mean, that's got to be crazy for you guys to hear, right? Well, I mean, that stuff is, okay. Let me bring up the slideshow. Maybe that's the best way, is to just we'll use our visual cues, right? To tell the story.
I have to file my HR.
Oh yeah, you had an HR issue. Yes.
Yep.
Is it the multiple physical assaults on women in this movie?
No, actually, this is I'm presenting this complaint on behalf of my clients, Maximilian H. Naoroz and Murphy H. Naoroz, who feel like Solon has received an undue amount of attention because they have also been here since the beginning recording with me, and they did not get the same equipment of larger triangular shaped headphones, and so they wanted to file a complaint.
Okay, well, look, first things first, let's get them some even larger triangular shaped headphones.
To get towards cats.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We all of us carry our inherent biases, and I'll be just straightforward about that. I take cats more seriously than I take dogs.
Like my big stinky dogs.
Now they are big and they do smell. But look, they are good. They're good boys, and they have been a part of this program. Yes, since the beginning, we've heard their little nails clicking and clacking all over your office room.
They said they can't help it because their claws don't retract.
Yes. Well,
that was nature. They had no choice in that.
Yeah, that's true. But it's also another failing of dogs when compared to cats. That being said, listen, let's just, I want to right this wrong because I do believe this. Max, if you're listening, I know you will hear this later. If not right now, Murphy, are you listening?
They're both here.
Okay. Max, good boy. Murphy, good boy. Does that help?
Thank you. That does help.
Yes.
That's all they need.
Okay.
If you have a cookie next time, just give them a cookie too.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that too. Absolutely. They're worth it. So, okay. That has been addressed and resolved really neatly, I think. I mean, as far as HR issues go, that could have been a lot messier.
If you have the little sandwich cookie, that's their favorite. And pretty much if you just had a jar of those in HR, they'd walk in and immediately be gone. They would be like, why was I here? Cookies.
Okay.
They're very easy.
I also take cookies in form of pride.
Shrishma,
Yes.
do you also need some affirmations? You're doing a great job.
In the form of
Shrishma, you're doing a great job. Catherine, you're doing a great job as well. Solon, I feel like we've stroked your ego enough to the point where
he's already CEO.
The dogs have a complaint.
Yes. Right. So we're just going to chill on you today. It's a mad world, everybody. I don't know if we've mentioned this, but that is the case. Okay. So we open now. Let's contextualize.
Tightening already.
Let's contextualize this movie and what it is. This movie, I did do some research. I broke all the rules and did research because I like this movie and I wanted to learn more and I was curious about it.
Why?
So,
can you tell us why?
Why I like this movie?
No, I mean, just why did they make this movie?
Oh, okay. That's where we were headed. So this movie is directed by Stanley Kramer, who was famous for directing very progressive dramas. So Judgment at Nuremberg is one of his famous, like as serious as fucking serious can be. Immaculately made films, and just known as the dramatist for directing movies. And so he kind of ends up making this movie sort of on a little bet. Somebody brings this up to him at a certain point, like, you never do a comedy. You're so serious, Stanley. What's up with that? So he takes this as a bit of a challenge, and he's like, oh, I'll make a comedy. Like, I'll make the comedy to end all comedies. I'll make the biggest, greatest comedy of all time. So he gets this huge cast. And again, like we're deep into the teens as far as like major roles with speaking parts. It's a lot of people. And the fact that this type of movie works at all, I think is fucking miraculous, because I've just never seen anything like it. Like, I've seen attempts at things like this. Shrishma, you brought this up. There was a movie in the early 2000s, Rat Race, which is very similar in premise to this. I watched that as well. Just, I was curious how that ages over the years. And, it's adequate. It's fine, but it's not like scale wise. It doesn't hold a candle to this thing, which is a good thing, because this movie is also filled with sticks of dynamite and fireworks, apparently. So candles, be careful, right? Assuming any of you made it that deep into the movie. What's up, Shrishma?
There's also a Bollywood version here.
What do you know about that? Can you tell us about that?
It's not a great movie. It's actually pretty lame. But they basically copied. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. And it's not something I would ever want to watch again. But it's in the same vein as this. It was like just so ridiculous and just like almost like nonsensical.
I didn't get that. You try again.
That was my watch. I don't know why he keeps talking to me.
Yeah. Oh, also, just because it's weird that there is Zoom and also, or whatever this is, Google Meet, and also because I can't see everybody's windows. Just start talking if you have things to say. I will stop.
Okay.
I'm just very enthusiastic about this, as you know, but it can't just be me.
I'm enjoying the cat butt I'm currently seeing at Catherine's.
Yeah, it was like just swimming round the tail,
swimming across the screen. He's so elegant.
Okay, so other trivia of note about this movie. Now, per the IMDb trivia, which is always, be skeptical about anything you read on IMDb, right? But they noted that in Hollywood at this time, there were around 100 professional stunt persons. And in this movie, 80 of them were used. So that's pretty fucking mega.
It's a who's who of stunt people.
It really is. I wonder, I'll do this research later, but like, do stunt people look at this movie like, that was the shit? Like, we got to do it Mad World style. Because while this is an aggressively loud, noisy, chaotic, anxiety-inducing movie, I mean, there's no question about it. That's what this is. I think it's safe to say that, like, in a world before Marvel and a world before the Star Wars, this is as big a spectacle as Hollywood can create, I think. Like, before we start thinking in those terms of, like, let's start doing, spaceships blowing things up, like, this is as big as it gets. I think this is an astonishingly competent and professional movie. This was made by people who knew what the fuck they were doing from top to bottom. And I think that goes from cinematography down to the stunts, down to the direction, down to the performances themselves. I think these are some pretty solid comedic performances. Whether or not you actually like the comedy, I think the people doing the jokes are doing them really well. And that's what I have to say about it. Now, Shrishma, do you understand? Like, can you see where I'm coming from when I talk about spectacle?
Yes, I can see. It was a big spectacle for sure.
Okay, I mean, they're crashing a lot of cars.
They did. I mean, when the movie started, I was almost like, okay, this is like an old school Fast and the Furious.
Okay. Yes.
That quickly changed. But yeah, I mean, yes, there was a lot of car chases, and it was, I think what got me is that they were just being so dumb.
How do you mean dumb?
Like, I don't know. They're just like doing dumb shit the whole time.
Like what? Well, and I'm genuinely curious. I'm not saying that defensively.
No, like for example, like even for them to like the way they went after the guy when he crashed the car and they got down there, like it's just like a bunch of people doing shit. Like I don't know if that's like you'd think there'd be like the police guy even wasn't any help. Like it just seemed like someone died and their first response is like, let's not, call the police. Let's go search for this money. Like.
They do say maybe we should call the police.
Okay,
they say that a couple times and then the police show up. So that
not like he was really helping the situation though.
Well, okay. So on that note, let's talk about it. So we have a big animated opening credit sequence, animated by the people who would end up doing the Charlie Brown cartoons a little later, and it's kind of fun if you like this thing. I mean, it's a huge cast. This was a very notoriously casted film in that, like, because it was supposed to be the comedy of all comedies, like comedians from the industry were calling up Stanley Kramer being like, why haven't I been called about Mad Mad World yet? Like they were inviting themselves into the movie basically. It's an expansive credit sequence animated with a huge score and everything. Also noting our thanks and apologies to the following California communities, which is amusing. They did shoot this mostly on location, which in itself is kind of special, I think, for this era. We're so soundstage, but this is all out in the goddamn desert. Carolyn, now, of course, this was your old neighborhood. Like, did you recognize this? Like, were you feeling this brown California desert?
Yeah, this just seems more of what I would say is like Southern California desert, like Bakersfield, like,
mm-hmm.
Or
Plaster City.
Right. If you're more inland, it's not attractive.
Yeah, this is tough to look at, but I will say the vista, like the framing, it's nice to see this fully restored. This was a Criterion what we watched, and it's nice to see all of the picture because it is beautiful. Like, this isn't necessarily the most beautiful part of the world, I would argue, but they take whatever beauty is there and they put it up on the goddamn screen for you. So here we are watching 4 different vehicles pull up after we watch an older man drive his car very recklessly off this road. And his name is Smiler Grogan. And here he is, played by Jimmy Durante. Jimmy Durante, who was a famous guy, Shrishma. I know you don't know who he is, but he talked like this. Cha-cha-cha-cha. Anything? Shrishma, did you ever see Frosty the Snowman, the cartoon?
Justin, I went on mute because I was munching away.
Yeah, okay. It's the joys of remote recording. Did you ever see that Frosty the Snowman cartoon?
I never watched the cartoon, but I know who Frosty the Snowman is.
Oh, okay. Well, he's got a cartoon, and that cartoon is narrated by this man, Jimmy Durante. It's just the only, I thought it might be one avenue to where you'd be like, oh yeah, that guy.
No, sorry.
So we're seeing all of our characters here. Here are this is the core cast here. We've got, starting on our left, we're looking at Jonathan Winters playing a guy named Lenny Pike. He drives the moving van, also known as Guy in Jumpsuit and Guy with Little Hat. Sitting next to him, also wearing a little hat, is Milton Berle playing J. Russell Finch. He is the henpecked, anxious one who can't stop talking about how Jimmy Durante just went sailing right out there. Mm-hmm. He just sailed right out there.
Hey, did you see it? The way he went sailing right out there?
He just sailed right out there.
He just went sailing out there.
That shit is funny, by the way. Next to him is Sid Caesar playing Melville Crump, a dentist, and arguably the most sensible one of this group. I mean, and even that is borderline, but he does tend to make the most sense and leads the great share out sequences that are forthcoming. Behind him is a guy named Dingy Bell, and he is played by Mickey Rooney in his
which I didn't realize that was the character's name until I watched it this time. I was like, Dingy Bell.
Dingy Bell, yes. I thought it was Dinky for a long time. And before that, I didn't know what his name was. I just knew him as Red Sweater Guy. And that's what's kind of fun about this movie for kids.
I just knew him as Mickey Rooney, and he plays Henry in The Black Stallion.
Yes, he does. He's a very good pony trainer.
He was also in National Velvet.
He was the most famous man in Hollywood. Do you guys know this?
He and Judy Garland used to do a bunch of things.
Yeah, so he was a very famous child and teen actor because he looks kind of youthful, right? So he could play teenage characters really well, but he was also a writer and a director and was big shit in Hollywood pre-war.
Singing, dancing. He was a true triple threat.
Yes, he could do it all, and he made a ton of money too. And then he went into the army during the war and was part of the let's entertain the troops in the field type of thing. And he did that. And he returns to Hollywood to find that people aren't as charmed by him now that he's no longer quite as much of a teenager. Mm-hmm. And also he's got gambling issues. So he blows all of his money. And also he loves the ladies. And so he's getting married and divorced repeatedly. And he just lived the Hollywood life, but he spends the rest of his career basically trying to remind everybody, I was number one. At one point, I was the biggest box office draw in the country, and for a few years too.
So the interesting thing about him is that truly I know him from the horse movies first and foremost. Sure, Henry Daly in The Black Stallion, where he is playing an old jockey, and they cast him in that, and that was 1979 maybe.
Yeah,
and they cast him in that because he had played Mai in National Velvet opposite Elizabeth Taylor, where he was also a jockey, and that was in early Hollywood. And then on Breakfast at Tiffany's, where he played the horribly racist Japanese man. That's terrible.
Mickey Rooney, famously not Japanese or of Japanese descent. So, yes.
And this movie. So I feel like I know him from a different period. It was only when I sort of went back into a Judy Garland phase of doing some research. So I was like, oh, he was the shit.
Yes, he was
in the 30s,
and he's got a red sweater. And okay, so just to tie this up real quick, what I like about this movie from a kid's perspective is that everybody is, of course, an archetype, but they also have very distinctive looks and performance traits and motor vehicles as well. So it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, those guys. There are 14 main characters. I don't need all their names. I didn't need them for a really long time. It was just like, oh yeah, these guys. I know there's a Benji. So Benji's the last one, played by Buddy Hackett. I almost said the great Buddy Hackett, and then I took it back. I swallowed great and just went with Buddy Hackett. I think Buddy Hackett might be kind of great though. I don't know.
I recently watched him in The Music Man.
Oh, okay. I've never seen it.
It's horrible. I mean, I just hate the musical, but the movie was as good as you can get of a version of that musical that I was like, oh wait, I don't like this one. But I have a question. Do you think Kathy Najimy's portrayal in Hocus Pocus is at all based on Buddy Hackett?
I mean, maybe subconsciously. What are you picking up specifically that you would
sort of side talking out of her mouth, the sort of funny rounder one?
Yeah, I could see that. She's a pretty good analog for a Hackett-esque type,
Right. And it's a stronger character. She's very funny. Lightens things up.
Yes. And Benji is very funny in this movie, I think. He's a very good gateway for a kid to watch this movie, I think, because he's basically as close to a kid as all of this entirely grown-up cast gets. And yeah, he looks real funny, right? He's got a funny look about him.
Which is kind of how I feel, though, about Kathy Najimy as Mary in Hocus Pocus, is that she's the more, as smart and perceptive as she is, she's the more childlike one, where Winnie's just angry and Sarah's such a floozy.
Yeah, they're very cartoony characters. It's very accessible to a lot of ages, I think.
Right.
So we're here, we're meeting Smiler Grogan, and this guy crashes his car, is thrown from the vehicle. These five run down to just see if he's okay or not. Obviously, he's on death's doorstep here. And while they're trying to make him kind of comfortable in his final moments, he tells them about this dough. You see, he's got all this dough in in a scene that I found for the first time in watching this, and I've seen this countless times, but I found this scene to be rather moving. Have I lost my mind? Yes or no? Katherine Sherlock.
Absolutely.
Now,
emotional things with this film.
When he lays out the plan of like, okay, there's 350 G's.
Look, there's this dough, see? There's all this dough. 350 G's. Do you hear what I'm saying? 350 G's.
Buried in Santa Rosita Park under a big W, right? The big W.
It's in this box. Buried under this. Buried under this big W.
Which, for a certain cult of people, at least in the United States, if you mention the big W, they will know what that means. It's not that many, and they all have websites about how they've gone in search of the actual big W. It's a thing. People know the big W.
I tell you, I'm giving it to you. And don't let him kid you. Don't let him kid you. Don't let him give you the business, see? Because it was mine. And I paid for it. Paid for every lousy buck of it, you hear? But watch out. Watch out for the bulls. Lousy, stinking bulls are everywhere. Bulls all over the place. You just drive down and dig it up. Dig it all up.
But when he talks about go dig it up and then get yourself all fancied.
And then you fix yourselves all up. Fix yourselves all up. Walk down the street like a king. Back to the old neighborhood. See the fellas. The dames. The dames all with a big hollow. A big hollow for old Smiler. Good old Smiler. Everybody's friend.
That actually touched me for the very first time. Just this dying old man's wants for, let's take this money, fuck the cops, and you just keep it. I paid for it. I earned every dollar that I stole, and you have it, and you live your best life, and that makes me happy. I don't know, something about that made me feel something. I'm not going to apologize for it, though.
Do you know how much $350,000 is in today's money?
I did do this math. Hold on. Is it 2 million or 4 million? I forget.
No, it's like almost 3.5 million.
Okay. I mean, that's totally worth it, I think, for all of this, all of the falderall that follows. And then I broke it down into the shares too, depending on which share system you're using. We're going to talk a lot about shares, people. Get yourself ready for that. But first, Smiler finally dies. And he literally kicks the bucket, which was a joke that I did not get until I was a teenager. But once I did get it, I was like, this movie. See, right?
Now I got it.
Shrishma.
At this, when you just said it, I got it.
He kicks the fucking bucket.
Okay.
Yes.
And they've replicated this exact scene in the Bollywood version.
Do they really? Okay. And then the cops who have been following him arrive, played the main detective here, played by Mr. Norman Fell, who would later go on to be in Three's Company and The Ropers and all this. He's a TV guy. A lot of these are TV actors. But he has such a distinctive voice. Again, like hearing him talk about like, was he already dead? Like the gravel in his voice, the smoker's gravel in his voice, like that. That's just my childhood. There's something about that, him barking at these guys. And the other amazing thing that I noticed for the first time last night, so I watched this movie last week probably, and then I watched it last night, and I spent probably 5 hours watching this movie last night of just pausing and like going back and making, like looking at things, taking pictures. A lot of these scenes are very long, like oneers, no coverage. A lot of these takes, it's like a minute and a half of just a scene unfolding, kind of like watching a play, really. And I just thought that was very impressive for the amount of people that you have to coordinate in a shot. And we're looking at 7 people right here. And then counting on everybody to hit their mark and then hit their line at the right spot. Like it's very hard to pull off. So I don't know. I just thought it was impressive that They have these very long dialogue-heavy scenes with a lot of blocking as well, and just everything was coordinated and done. And also, it's on location. It's just crazy. It's crazy. The logistics are crazy to think of. But anyway, they do not tell the cops about what they have learned about the money and the big W. And they return up to their cars, and we meet the couples. Basically, we meet the car. We break down this group into their cars when they start driving, and they're sort of all caravanning together. They all have the same information, and they're all passing this information on. So Melville Crump passes on to his wife, Monica, played by Edie Adams, I believe. Russell goes, he's traveling with his wife, Emmeline, and his wife's mother, Mrs. Marcus, played by the great Ethel Merman, of course.
Now, what kind of an attitude is that? These things happen. They only happen because the whole country is just full of people who, when these things happen, they just say these things happen, and that's why they happen.
Now, Catherine, I know you loved Ethel Merman's voice throughout this motion picture, correct? Yeah.
I didn't like anybody's sounds.
It's a lot of shouting. Where are you at with this, Catherine? At this point in the movie, now that we've got a plot, it's a little treasure hunt filled with a bunch of adorable weirdos.
Is there a plot? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it just no, it didn't.
Just didn't click for you. See, I appreciated the economy, the efficiency of we're just starting with this is what this movie is about. Go, which is what this whole scene is like. This just sets up the premise right away. There's no intro.
We don't know these people. We don't have any invested interest in these people.
They are as strange to us as they are to each other.
I have no vested interest in any of it.
Okay. So you, throughout the movie, Catherine, you were not rooting for one over the other? There was nobody that you were pulling for?
No. I mean, like I say, for most of the first half first part before the interlude, I had to watch it with the sound off, and it wasn't even really watching it. Sometimes I wasn't even in the same room. It was just it was just too much about this that just I couldn't handle.
This is your favorite movie. I think this might be the one.
He just went sailing out there.
Okay, so you may be wondering at this point, where did this money come from? It's a tantalizing idea. 350 G's buried under a big W. I love it. Maybe this is just a movie for 10-year-old boys. It's entirely possible. But
maybe
that's all I wanted, Shrishma. Just somebody tell me where that money is, and I'll go dig it up, and I'll be rich, and I'll go to the old neighborhood.
You are the same brother that had a green robe, like a green bathrobe, that you then put a money symbol on, taped on, that you had drawn and cut out, and it was your smoking jacket.
Yes, you are mixing up so many facts there, and I'm wondering if it's worthwhile to correct you.
But what I'm saying is, wasn't that your superheroes? You're I'm going to be the smoking jacket.
It was my professional wrestling character.
Oh, that's fine. Whatever. It was a green bathrobe.
No, it was blue. Number one, it's a blue bathrobe. It was made by Botany 500, and I remember that because at the end of the Twilight Zone, they would always say, Rod Serling's suit provided by Botany 500. I'd be like, oh yeah, my robe.
Did you want a green one? Is that what I'm remembering?
I want green everything. It's my favorite color.
All right.
So probably. And yes, and so the dollar sign that you're thinking of was actually my professional wrestling name was the Smoking Jacket. And so it was a big S with a J in the middle, which kind of looks like a dollar sign. So that's why yes. And
I think my version's actually better. I think we need to get you a green robe with a money symbol on it.
Sure.
Am I mixing you up with Scrooge McDuck?
You could be. I would like to swim in a big pile of money.
Big pile of coins.
We're trying to figure out a way to achieve that. It's not going well so far. But one day I would like to, yes. So, treasure, money found, all of these things. This is the dream, right? For many people, including a young me. And you're wondering but where did this old man get this money from? We learn, through our detective who calls back to headquarters or whatever and alert Captain Culpepper, played by a very old and ailing Spencer Tracy, in the Santa Rosita Police Department, which I have learned is not a real city in Southern California. It's a made up city. Sad to learn it. he is a police captain who is near retirement. He's been working on the force for 27 years, and he is trying to wrap up this case. It's a tuna factory robbery, as he explains to his wife, Ginger, over the phone, who asks so lovingly,
"Now what the hell is the Smiler Grogan case?"
Which I think is one of the great line reads of all time. I love it so much. Anyway, this money was stolen from a tuna factory, and he's been pursuing it for the last 15 years and is on the verge of solving the case, getting it off the books, which is a very big deal for the police, as all of us know, having watched The Wire. You got to clear the board, right? So that's where the money comes from. And now, Shrishma, speaking of Santa Rosita, you did a little research of your own into like movie locations, like filming locations. Do you have any info to share with us?
Right. So no, I was there's a guy who did a YouTube video, and he did a tour of all the filming locations from the movie It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World in Southern California. And I think he went to check out if the Big W still stood. And I think it did. I didn't get to the end of the YouTube.
Do you want
video.
the info? I have it.
Tell me.
Okay, so I was poking around last night.
As a guess, I would say it still is, because it might draw some
interest.
Interest, exactly.
60 years later. This is the 60th anniversary of this movie, by the way. That's crazy. So here's the deal with the Big W, because I looked this up last night because you know me. I was like, where is the Big W and why have I not visited it yet? I mean, this should be on my list of things to do if it is a real place. So Santa Rosita, number one, not a real city. It's amalgamation of many places. I think it's Santa Monica. They shot a lot of it, if I'm not mistaken, Carolyn.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
They shot a lot of it on the specific road that's in Santa Monica that comes down. They make it look like, anyway, I'm like, oh, I know
It's
where
the incline, right? They call it the incline or something?
Yes,
yeah, okay.
Exactly. And there's a big park up there, but...
Yeah. Okay, so the actual park that we see in this movie is private property. It was not a park. It was actually, there was nothing going on there. And they spent $40,000 to turn it into a state park, basically, for the movie, including planting the Big W, which, to share with our audience, I mean, not to spoil the ending, please don't spoil the incredible ending to It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. It's a bunch of palm trees shaped like a Big W. So that's what it is. But they planted those specifically, so you can't visit it because it remains private property. There was a documentary about the movie made in the early 90s where they go back to the location and 3 of the 4 palm trees are standing. And then over the subsequent years, they all ended up falling, mostly because they were planted at an angle to look like a Big W. Like, that's not how trees grow. You know, that's not how nature works. So the last one fell probably around 2011 or whatever. Apparently somebody found a stump there. Like, there is a little following of people who want to know about the Big W. I told you. So now you can go visit. You can go to Portuguese Point or something like that. You can walk along the beach and look up and see a palm tree that remains that was next to the Big W. And that's as close as you can get to the real deal. So I don't know if it's quite worth that type of trip, but if I'm in the neighborhood, I'll go look up at where the Big W used to be. I think it would be great.
You know, okay. I don't know the relationship, but did they use the same locations for the Rat Race movie?
I don't think, no, because they ended up in Arizona, or no, Silver City, New Mexico, I think is where they ended up. So, I mean, Southern California to New Mexico, it's kind of, yeah, it's similar area anyway.
You don't have to. Is it Southern California and New Mexico? I guess.
They are not
they're both
next
desert?
to each other.
They are not next to each other.
Yes,
but they're both desert.
But they are both desert, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, we continue on as everybody's talking about what they just heard and sharing everything. They try some driving shenanigans, you know, like the lead car, which is the Finch vehicle. They try to go a bit faster, but everybody's like, "Oh, what's he doing?" And then the truck behind, Pike's moving truck, he starts to go a little bit slower and tries to let them just move on ahead without him. And everybody's like, oh, what's he doing? So they're all watching each other, leading to we check in at the police station with Culpepper. Here he is objectifying Lieutenant Schwartz here, of course. A woman in the police force. Unreal. Let's just look at her ass for a minute, shall we? That, for as much as I love this movie, is inexcusable. Say it again. We check in with the sheriff of Crockett County, which is where the motorists are currently. Just wanted to take a real quick look at the Crockett County Sheriff's Office. A lot of like old-timey Civil War looking Daguerre types up here of other famous white sheriffs of the era. This old book here. I mean, what is in this book? Why is this existing? Is this just all the
probably
laws
the
of the
state
land?
code of California?
Yeah. And of course, because it is a smoker's paradise in the 60s, he has his rotation of pipes. Of course, you need that for your police work. And then this massive, ripped directly from the spaceship in Destination Moon, this huge radio signal transmitter here. Incredible. You love to see it. We do meet the police captain or police Chief Aloysius. Good friends, longtime friends, played by William Demarest, who, Carolyn, we saw him recently in Viva Las Vegas. He is Rusty's father, who owns is it a house? Is it a boat?
We don't know.
To say? Yeah, but he's got a very distinctive voice, and I love to see him anytime he shows up. And this is where they lay out, again, just delivering some backstory and plot points for us.
I just want to point out in this map how big Los Angeles County is. It's ridiculous.
This whole thing, yeah, that's huge.
All of that in pink. Yeah. And then next to it is Ventura. I mean, it is an enormous amount, a varied land populace.
Yes. Well, and I
didn't realize that was all California. Like, because it's so zoomed in.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's just from like Santa Barbara County to like not even San Diego. I mean, well, probably right underneath his armpit, Spencer Tracy's armpit, San Diego, because that's Catalina out there. So,
right. Yeah, it is massive.
Which to me, it looks like, well, I don't know, like they had this crash in like Bakersfield or something. I mean, you know.
So the crash. Okay, so Crockett County. I'm assuming that's a real county. Why would they make one up?
I don't think it is.
Is this Crockett County right here? Shall I look it up?
Yeah, I'm going to look it up because I really don't think that's a place.
Okay, because this is where the crash happened, and then this is where the motorists were meeting after they've tried to speed and slow their way away from each other. Anyway, they're making it. He's kind of outlining what's happening because the police, they know that Smiler knew where this money was, so they are keeping an eye on these people who went down to the crash site because they feel like they are hiding some information, which they know is this money. So they're just keeping these people under observation throughout the entire film, which is hilarious because they are being very naughty and not being arrested for it. So another fantasy for a young person there.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm right in looking at this, but it's Kern County is where Bakersfield is. And that's why I'm like, this looks like Bakersfield. That's, yeah. And then it's San Bernardino County, which goes sideways along Los Angeles and Kern.
Okay. All right.
So Crockett County. That's why I was like, Crockett County's fake.
Okay. Fair enough. Carolyn, as ever, I know you love to hear it. You're right.
Well, just, don't want to have fake counties out there for California.
That's true. Well, I mean, Santa Rosita, and this map is just straight up bullshit because they have Santa Rosita on this map.
Right. But what I'm telling you is like the purple for Los Angeles, yes. Yeah. Ventura, yes. San Luis Obispo, yes. Like that's all correct. And then north is in that green is Kern. There's this yellow that's here that's all now San Bernardino.
Okay.
So I don't know if they probably just sliced in that to make it Crockett County because that orange is what San Bernardino is.
Okay. I love the amount of time we're spending on Crockett County. I love, this is what I'm here for. Catherine left the show about 30 minutes ago, but I think I'm still here for this.
And by the way, this is all like hours and hours of driving. It's not close. And because you can just drive in California for fucking days. I mean,
it's a country. It's
huge.
Bigger than fucking Italy. Yeah, right.
This ridiculous.
is so. I'm very prone in my old age to clickbait when I see it on social media, and so I end up clicking on those like any intriguing like facts you may not know or whatever. 37 things about, or So the other day I clicked on one that was like 27 maps that really change your perception of the world or whatever.
How big California is?
It showed like LA County compared to the rest of the population. Like Los Angeles County has more people in it than most of the rest of the country combined. It's crazy. Yeah.
None of them have jobs and they're all a bunch of fucking hustlers.
And same with New York, right, Justin?
Yeah.
I feel like I saw this fact about New York as well.
Yeah, there are a couple of basically LA and New York where it is, they are larger than, whatever the percentages of the country. Shocking. But anyway, they place a bet here. Culpepper is like, look, here are all the players. Here's the deal. If they got information on where the money is buried, I always told you it was down here. They're going to meet up. And right here are the crossroads. If they reach the crossroads and they head south, then we know that they are on the scent. And they make a little bet about it. So then we go to the actual share out scene, where they decide it's just a big argument about like how much money, like when they find the money, how do they split it up? Melville Crump starts the conversation very sanely by saying like, look, why don't we know the money's there. Why don't we all get into our cars and calmly, slowly within each other's eyesight, drive down there together and just go dig it up, which is the easy solution. But this movie is about avarice, everybody. It's a celebration of greed and greedy people. And so they want what's coming to all of them. They cannot agree on what this is. Hence this massive share out scene. Again, the logistics of trying to coordinate the scene with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people at this point in one frame. And yet they managed to do it. And like, again, there are 90-second oneers in this scene where it's just, there are no edits. It's just a scene playing out and it's done so well. I can't believe it. Like it's mind blowing to me. Anyway, I love the scene. I love the share argument. Any thoughts on this, people? Shrishma, what did you think about the share out? Did you follow it at all?
It did. It seemed fairly reasonable.
When
they were splitting it.
When they get to the point where they're like, okay, so there were 4 cars, that's 4 shares. These people there were all these people. And then as people inside of the cars, that's like a separate grouping of shares. I think that is really funny.
That's where they kind of got thrown off course a little bit.
And the other great line that comes from this scene that consistently makes me laugh is when Buddy Hackett tells Ethel Merman to drop dead.
We figured it 17 different ways. And every time we figured it, it was no good because no matter how we figured it, somebody didn't like the way we figured it. So now there's only one way to figure it. And that is every man, including the old bag, for himself.
So good luck and may the best man win.
Right. Except you, lady. May you just drop dead.
All right. We all agree on that.
That one line just kills me for whatever reason. And on that point, Jonathan Winters as Pike, the truck driver, he was my favorite character as a kid. I liked his style. I liked his jumpsuit. I liked the fact that he was man alone out there. And also he destroys that gas station, as we are soon to see. Anyway, they cannot come to a decision about how they want to split up this money. So everybody just runs off to their cars and starts driving like a bunch of fucking maniacs. And this is it. I mean,
it's stressed.
What? Yeah. This is where Carolyn's anxiety is induced, even more so than it already is. And we see, just fabulous stunt driving. It's if you watch this as a kid, this will make you want to be a stunt person for a living because you're like, yeah, this is great. Look at this driving. So we're looking at the Crump car right here, just swerving all over the goddamn road. This is the scene where Melville his face is covered with the map while he's driving. And like Carolyn, this is my anxiety, is him with that map, because when he finally yanks it away from his face, he has one eye closed, which makes me think that like the corner of the map stabbed him in the eye. That upsets me for sure.
I mean, he could have a scratch on his cornea, and it's very painful.
Yeah, of course it is. Fucking paper cut on your eyeball.
I mean, eyeballs are a sensitive area. Like, that's it.
Yes, that's true.
But I also feel like working eyesight is definitely a prerequisite. Both eyes fully functioning are a prerequisite for driving cars.
Oh, yeah.
Not so. I know people who don't have fully functioning eyeballs that drive cars.
You can be legally blind in Michigan and still fire a gun, and go hunting. So,
but what about to drive a car?
To drive a car, totally different, probably. Probably not. Probably much more stringent than the gun laws. Let's say that. Anyway, these guys are all racing off to the nearest port of call, which has an airplane. They want to get to Santa Rosita. They've got quite a trip ahead of them. Whoever's there first gets the money, guys. So the Crumps arrive first, and they get the rickety biplane. Behind them, close behind them, are Dingy and Benji, and their little Volkswagen stalls because there's dust in the carburetor. So they get held up a little bit. They do not get access to the shitty biplane, but the pilot then tells them that, like, look, there's another airfield like 12 miles away. You can find somebody there to take you. So that's their journey. Meanwhile, the Finch family gets rear-ended by Pike in his moving truck, and so their vehicles are both hosed there. Pike gets on a little girl's bike and starts pedaling off for some assistance. And meanwhile, the Finches flag down the one and only Terry Thomas.
Say, jolly nasty accident there. Jolly lucky nobody was hurt.
Say, where did you get that funny accent? Are you from Harvard or something?
Harvard? Oh, rather not. I'm English.
Sounds so foreign.
Catherine, are you excited to see one of your country persons in this movie?
No.
Okay. Do you know Terry Thomas? Did you recognize him in his?
Yeah, I mean, he's not my favorite at all. No.
Oh, he's not your. Okay.
I don't know.
Catherine, what is wrong with you? How do you not love Terry Thomas?
I mean, I don't. It just.
He does.
I don't care.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. And also, his the caricature that he plays is like the worst of your culture all combined into one, in a sense.
And I don't really think the personal rancor is going to help the situation.
This is a very funny scene, though, I think, where he is so pleasant and chipper when he greets them. He pulls over his little Jeep. He's been staying at the local Vandenberg Air Force Base. He's an RAF colonel collecting some cacti. And he's so happy to help them and say good morning. And Ethel Merman just yanks the door open that he is leaning on, and he falls right over, and it is so loud.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Had an accident? Anyone hurt?
No, but we've got to get to a phone. Can you give us a lift?
A lift? Of course, I should be absolutely delighted.
And it is so funny, I think. And here's our biplane, of course. This is a plane from the early 20th century. It is not going to be an easy journey for them. Meanwhile, Pike on the bike, he flags down a passing car where we see Dr. Meyer, played by Phil Silvers, who used to have his own television show back in the day. He was a noted television comedian. He's a real mixer, this guy. He's a troublemaker. Now, they're all troublemakers to a certain degree, but he's the most maker of all the trouble, I think. And he listens to Pike tell the story about the big W and the 350 Gs, all the dough and everything. And he is so intrigued by it. And he's like, yeah, get in the car. Let's do this. Let's go find that money. Oh, you should probably move that bike. Somebody's going to stumble over in the dark, which I didn't think twice about as a kid. That made total sense to me. And then as an adult, I watched this and I'm like, well, you're in the middle of the desert. There's nobody walking around on the road in the desert. Why would he think this is an issue? The point is, it's not an issue, and Phil Silvers just drives that car right away from him. He's a real mixer, this guy. We're going to see plenty of him. He gets a flat tire. Fortunately, he gets a flat tire very close to Ray and Irwin's garage, the site of quite an event soon to be. But he gets these two to help him change his tire, and he knows that Pike is right behind him, so he's trying to get them to motivate. Let's get this done. Meanwhile, Benji and Dingy have traveled up to the airfield. We have this little reception desk at the airfield is intriguing to me. We have an ashtray. It's a fully outdoor umbrella covered. He's got a telephone. He's got a fucking ledger. He's got
But this is a lot of green. We've gone from the desert.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, like, where, other than, I don't know how they did this other than were they, like, driving by Palm Springs where it's, like, those rocky mountains, but then all of a sudden you'll get, like, a little green oasis where there's, like, a golf course.
I think they did shoot a lot out there, so that's probably the idea.
All
they
right.
give a name of the place in the movie. I can't remember what it is, but he gives a city. It is that. Now that you bring it up, though, Carolyn, like anytime, like when we finally escape the desert and we end up in Santa Rosita, especially in the park, it's such a relief. It's so beautiful after being in this dirty purgatory,
right? Which
monochrome, yeah.
That's why, like, California is so weird because it's like the landscape goes from like the giant redwoods to some shitty ass desert.
Right.
Okay. Anyways, so I will say though, I know it's an airfield. I think it's obviously also a golf course of some kind is what it gives me. But I will tell you, I feel like every like country club I've ever gone to is just always giving me these vibes. Like every country club is like the 1960s. It's not really changed.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, exactly. and this gentleman representing all of it by like, no, you can't see him today. No, I'm sorry. No. Just a bunch of no's basically. And who they can't see, his name is Mr. Fitzgerald, and he's played by Jim Backus. Shrishma, do you recognize Jim Backus at all? This man here who's sleeping on a pool table hungover?
I do not, and I did not as I watched the movie.
Okay, well, he's in Rebel Without a Cause, which is a movie we haven't watched yet, but it's from this era. One day we might hit it. He is also Mr. Howell on Gilligan's Island. He's the millionaire.
Okay. I don't think I watched that movie either.
You never watched Gilligan's Island, the television show?
No. I watched the Jack Black version.
There was a Jack Black version of Gilligan's Island?
Yes.
Oh my God. Where have I been?
Where have you been?
Send me the information on that.
I will send it to you.
ASAP.
When was that made? The mid 2000s?
Yeah, somewhere like that. But I remember watching this one.
Okay. He's also the voice of Mr. Magoo. Do you know Mr. Magoo?
I have heard of Mr.
He was a cartoon character who couldn't see very well. He used to get up into all kinds of trouble.
You realize I call one of my horses McAllen, McGeedle, McGoddle, Magoo because Mr. Magoo, but he has to go through several versions of his name to be Magoo.
Yes, of course, Magoo. Yes.
So,
and here, yes.
I have one point of clarification.
Okay. Hit me.
Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
Gulliver's Travels.
Oh, yeah. That's completely different.
I get the mix up. I do get the mix up, but yes, very different properties, very different IP. And yes, I do remember Jack Black being in Gulliver's Travels.
Okay,
yes, I do remember.
What I was talking about.
Okay. Have you heard of Gulliver's?
I have heard of. It's not the same concept.
What
happens in Gilligan's Island?
Gulliver's, hold on. Isn't Gulliver's Travels where he becomes a giant and goes to Lilliput?
Yes.
Right.
Okay. And he gets small too. He does both.
There's like, it's a very Alice in Wonderland type of.
It's a bit of social satire from Jonathan Swift, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Gilligan's Island is where a tour boat that normally does a 3-hour tour gets lost and
Should we just play? Should I just play her the theme song?
Just play the theme song. Go ahead. Go for it.
I'm only going to play the theme song, Shrishma, because it literally it explains the entire premise.
Okay.
In the song.
Okay.
Theme. Catherine, this is what you tune in for, right? This is exactly it.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm so glad we are doing this. This is incredible.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic port aboard this tiny ship. The mate was was a mighty sailing man, the skipper brave and sure.
There's the skipper.
My passengers set sail that day for a 3-hour tour. A 3-hour tour.
Shrishma, are you with me? 3-hour tour.
A 3-hour tour.
What could go wrong?
The tiny ship was tossed. If not for the courage of the fearless crew, the minnow would be lost. The minnow would be lost. The ship's aground on the shore of this uncharted desert isle. With Gilligan.
That's Gilligan. He's a dope.
The skipper too.
He's a bit aggressive.
There
he is.
And his wife. The movie star. The professor and Mary Ann. Here on Gilligan's Island. Now, this is the tale of our castaways. They're here for a long, long time.
My God, there's an extended we're not going to watch the extended.
We're not watching the extended version. But also, let's just say that this island they landed on is also on a backlot.
Absolutely. Okay. No question about it.
Just want to make that clear.
Also, the Harlem Globetrotters show up sometimes and play basketball on the desert island. Anyway, Shrishma, that show is famous because there's the professor and he's always making like radios out of coconuts and stuff like that. It's not going to make a lot of sense.
Well, I'm glad we cleared that up because I would have gone the rest of my life thinking that Gilligan's Island was where Lilliput was.
You know, but I think at this point, maybe we should just lobby Jack Black to do a whole Gilligan's Island.
You would be a really good Gilligan or skipper for that.
I think he's a great skipper.
Anyway, guys, let's get back to this movie. Mad world. Jim Backus is hungover. He's sleeping on a pool table. That was very attractive to me as a kid. I could not believe it. A human being sleeping on a pool table. Unbelievable. Anyway, they try to roust him.
Wait a minute, just a minute. Yes, I can't see.
What?
Something's happened to my eyes. I can't see.
You can't see. He can't see.
You know, when I had a pool table at my old house, you could have slept on it.
Oh, well, let's put that together sometime.
No, we don't have it anymore.
Get a new one and I'll sleep on it, Carolyn.
I don't want one. We left. The previous owners left it there for us, and then we left it for the buyers that bought our house. Because who wants to move a fucking pool table?
I'm going to call them up and ask
you know how awkward that is? They're so big.
Let's break this gas station, all right? This is one of the big scenes. This is huge. Now, Catherine, I'm going to assume that you hated the destruction of the service station. True.
I don't think I saw it, but here we are.
Catherine, this is a little early. But I understand you have things to do, and this would be a very mutable scene if you wanted to go do those things and then come back and see if this movie still exists. Shrishma, what did you think about the service station destruction?
Unnecessary. See, this is one of the dumb shit that they didn't need to do. Like the destruction of the gas station.
There's just so much that they're destroying in this movie.
That's the glory of it, though, you guys. I feel like you're missing the point. Like, the destruction is the reason for the season. That's why we're here.
But again, that's why I'm going to say this movie starts off in a third act.
Yes.
And only escalates.
You're never going to see a rage blackout that leads to the complete annihilation of two whole person's livelihoods. You don't see that in a motion picture these days. So you saw it in this one.
Right. And I really feel like they had the storyboard process for this film was like, okay, we're going to start with a man driving off a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just kept going like, and then they're going to get a plane. And then they're going to destroy this. And then they're going to destroy that. And then we're going to bring in the crazy brother-in-law. Like the whole thing was like, how can we one up ourselves every single time?
Yes. Now, part of the trivia I accrued this past week is when the screenplay was delivered to the actors, it was actually two screenplays, one with all the dialogue and one with all of the action. And this particular scene, it's all action, baby. So Pike rolls his little bicycle up to the service station. He sees Dr. Meyer, his now arch nemesis, who has ditched him in the desert and is going to steal his money, sees him. Ray and Irwin, the garage owners, the proprietors, they manage to knock him out briefly enough to tie him up. He wakes up and he just rages out because he is a rageaholic, is what Pike is. I mean, like, he is so angry all the time and he just wants to kill Phil Silvers, who takes off, of course. And because of his rage, he destroys this business. He just throws poor Ray and Irwin, who did nothing other than try to have a goddamn life. He starts just throwing them. Look at this man. He is flying off of a Coca-Cola cooler that's been thrown out of this building into supporting structure, this awning thing. It's all coming down, folks. The entire thing. I mean, this guy's just picking up full-on coolers and throwing them into the desert. It's insane. And I love every second of it, you guys. This makes my 10-year-old boy inside feel so good to watch him break this shit and knock this thing down. Also, what makes me feel good, we're in the middle of nowhere, number one. Number two, just the font on this truck, Ray and Irwin's garage. I mean, it is so 1963, you guys. I will see you at the tiki bar. So he not only destroys their business, probably murders both of Ray and Irwin, but he also steals their tow truck. Meanwhile, the Finches have stopped at a payphone to call up Mrs. Marcus's son, Sylvester.
This is my favorite part.
How do we feel about Sylvester? Carolyn, I'm just going to throw it to you since you seem to have thoughts on this. Tell me about Sylvester.
This dancing is ridiculous, and I'm here for it, and I just love...
Song's a banger. 31 Flavors is a banger, yeah.
Right, and like I love the whole just like herky-jerky kind of Bob Fosse, very seriousness of this woman in the black bikini.
She is locked in. That head does not move. It's all torso. I mean, and she's also a fox too. But I love
but she's working it. Like you don't want to touch that. She will eat you alive.
No, and that's Sylvester's whole dynamic with her. Like he's dancing around her, but he does not touch her ever. You know, like he's just dancing.
She would slap you.
Yeah, yeah. Now apparently there is a subplot of this movie. This movie was actually longer. There was a longer cut of this film, you guys, which you can watch. I don't like that cut. It's on the cuts that were made from the longer version are adequate, very good cuts to make. But there was a subplot that she is actually having an affair with Sylvester, and the red, I believe it's a Mustang, maybe. Oh, sorry, car people. But his red sport convertible that he ends up driving later belongs to her husband, apparently, because she has a line about like, well, what am I going to tell my husband? But cut it out. We don't need it. Anyway, they're too busy dancing and being secretly high, I believe. Like they're acting very stoned, right? But like there's no reefer reference. But I mean, he's a groovy beach bum, right? Like this guy's totally high. Yeah, he's ripping J's with fucking Frankie and Annette over there at Muscle Beach Party, most likely.
Right.
Anyway, they can't get a hold of him, and here we see a glimpse of the first assault on women. Mrs. Marcus, played by Ethel Merman, takes the keys out of the Jeep because she is dissatisfied when Colonel Hawthorne and Russell want to press forward and keep traveling down to Santa Rosita. She wants to stay by the phone to get a hold of Sylvester, who lives 10 minutes away and can get the money before all of them reach it, if he will answer the goddamn phone and stop dancing. She takes the keys and puts them down her dress, in her bosom, her cleavage area, her décolletage, if you will. Milton Berle and Terry Thomas chase after her into the desert, grab her, lift her up, and bounce her upside down to get the keys to fall out, much to the horror of Emmeline, her daughter, of course, and they leave without the ladies. And it is a choice that they have made. How do we feel about this, everybody?
I'm just impressed.
Obviously does not age well. Yeah, right. And fortunately, she's wearing this full body stocking underneath as well.
We see her panties like in every other scene after this, I feel like.
She is getting picked up and yanked at an awful lot. So obviously to our modernized, where we live in a world where in theory we would all respect one another's personal space and not touch each other, this looks very awkward. So that's a no for me, this scene. It's awful. But they press on. Meanwhile, Dr. Meyer, he gets caught up in some fucking dirt farm medicine scenario where he's got to go all over hell's creation to help this guy get medicine to his wife. He cannot get out of where this man lives because it is apparently just a mine in the middle of the desert. It's astonishing. Anyway, he's a terrible person, Dr. Myers, so we don't feel too bad about it. We're kind of relishing his situation. He ends up getting hooked up with the son of the guy he helps out, who's like, I can show you another way out, which ends up being a river that he floats down, and it's a real disaster. Fun times. Meanwhile, the biplane lands. The Crumps arrive in Santa Rosita, everybody. We have our first people touching down in the area next to the big W. But of course, this movie is not even halfway over at this point, and so there has to be a huge cock-up. This is a great glimpse at a hardware store in 1963. Just wanted to point out these plaid coolers over here.
Thermoses and coolers. Love it.
We already have these in the boom room. I took one of, I think maybe this very model, took it into the boom room for Long Long Trailer. So we have that already, but just like to highlight it. These two, the Crumps, they end up downstairs in a downstairs basement area, looking for picking a shovel. This place is about to close, of course, so the door gets locked behind them, and they are stuck in the basement of the hardware store. And Carolyn, this is the root of my anxiety. Like the Crumps locked in the basement,
locked in the basement. All right,
yeah, like this is purgatory. Like in the same way, we're like Ghost of Mr. Chicken. I had never thought of the concept of suicide before hearing that reference in that movie. Mm-hmm. Like the concept of being trapped in a place that you cannot get out of is really driven home for me personally in this movie, because they spend an hour locked in this goddamn basement and they are never getting out. They're just getting dirtier and sweatier and blowing up more things as the movie progresses. And this is my nightmare, is being locked in a basement, like being forgotten. This is a thing that actually became quite clear to me towards the end when they're all in the cabs and Pike is trying to find a slot in the cab. And my instant trigger was they're going to leave without him, which is like, that's my fear. That's one of my core fears, is being left behind. And part of it is, instigated here. So yeah, just don't forget me, guys. Like, and we have phones now. So if you haven't heard from me, and you have to go, like the car needs to keep moving, send a text. I will be there as soon as possible. I promise you. Just don't go without me. Always hated that. Meanwhile, up in the sky, Jim Backus is sobered up enough to get the plane off of the ground, but he wants some old fashions, everybody. And this formative for me, like his voice saying, what's wrong with some old fashions like dear old dad used to make?
I'm going to make an old-fashioned the old-fashioned way, the way dear old dad used to.
What if something happens?
What can happen to an old-fashioned, all right?
And this incredible Twin Beach airplane has this button you push and a bar rises up in the back. And so Mr. Fitzgerald, Jim Backus, he's hammering, he's like throwing back 2 or 3 different old fashions before he gets clonked on the head by mistake and passes out in the back of the airplane. Shrishma, all of your anxiety is induced at this point because these guys are up here with this. Do you think they just
went around the writer's room and said, "Hey, what's your biggest fear?"
Yeah, right. What
car crash? Plane crash? Yep.
Great.
Getting stuck somewhere.
Put it in the movie. We've got plenty of space. Meanwhile, back at Sylvester's pad, they finally answer the goddamn phone, and his character takes a turn from being he's real high in this particular scene where he's like spacing out, and he's like, "Baby, how about a can of beer?" And you're like, "I feel like," and she's just like shouting his name in the way that she does, Sylvester. Anyway, he does not listen to anything she says, only picks up on the fact that something is wrong, and so he becomes protective baby bird, gets into this car and starts driving in the wrong direction to save them.
Not my mama. Don't be mean to my mama.
Boy, are you bugging me, man? I'm gonna nail. I'm getting bugged now. Whoa, man.
Now, Captain Culpepper, he's got his own issues. He's got pension issues. Carolyn, you brought it up. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, his wife Ginger is on the phone, and his daughter Billy Sue is on the phone. Billy Sue is upset because there are just all these reasons, you guys. They can't get along. His family is falling apart.
You keep forgetting if a girl is 6 feet 5 inches tall, she's bound to have special problems.
By the way, this is everyone's family, and most of the time, this is where you just want to be like, "Hi, he's doing the old fashioned, I'm putting two phones together so you two can talk to one another. I was just like, I'm just going to transfer your phone call. Thank you. Hi, you've reached Carolyn. Oh, wait, is this a family drama? Oh, okay. Let me transfer you to the correct sibling. Thank you. Okay. Beep, boop, 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 boop.
I encourage that policy.
Yep. Nope. No. I'm not handling the complaints today. Yep. No.
That's right. I don't have time for this.
I don't have time for that today. No. Yeah. No. But let me connect you to the right family member.
Well, and this is the midpoint. We'll get to our intermission here, but like things are falling apart, right? Benji and Dingy up in an airplane. They cannot land. Captain Culpepper, his family is falling apart. And also he's not getting his pension bump. He finds out. Dr. Mayer, he's, here's Sylvester weeping his way down to fucking Plaster City, the wrong direction from the money to save his mother, who is being forced out of the car. A second physical assault by Pike, who is ripping her out of the tow truck. He picked her up at a certain point. She kicks him away and ends up back in the truck, which the parking brake was not set. So that rolls down. So they're all in a mess as well. Meanwhile, the Crumps are locked in this basement. They end up setting the basement on fire by mistake. It's a whole thing. Meyer tries to take his car across this river. The kid says it's fine, but he ends up floating down the river. Fare thee well, Dr. Meyer. And, this incredible stunt too. Benji and Dingy flying this plane through a billboard. This is real, everybody. They did this in real life. And it's awesome. This is spectacle, you guys. Who doesn't want this? Aside from Katherine Sherlock. Katherine, you still with us?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was one of the only scenes I did actually see.
The airplane through the billboard?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're sort of, yeah. Okay. Anyway, the movie continues.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
White peopling.
It is a lot of white people. Now, we do get light diversity later on with the cab driver, of course, played by the famous Eddie Rochester, who was another kind of character actor of note. These are the Three Stooges, you guys. They make a brief cameo. Again, this is the comedy's comedy. So Three Stooges, later years, of course, they got their start in the 30s or something like that. But here they are, part of the fire brigade sent out to the airfield to put out the blaze of when Benji and Dingy eventually crashed that beautiful Twin Beach. Meanwhile, back in Santa Rosita Police Department, a couple things here. We have our cop ashtrays, 2 of them, in fact. They are massive and heavy. You could murder somebody with that ashtray. Number 2, you love to see it. Pencil sharpener, old school, on the wall pencil sharpener. Yeah, they're all fucking, this guy's got a pencil right here. How's he going to sharpen that thing?
That's true.
And then this is Zazu Pitts, by the way. She was another character actor from the early days of Hollywood. She has a very distinct voice, and she also has 2 roses on one stem in a glass vase. It's unusual to see, but it adds a little class to the proceedings. And over here on the Santa Rosita, Southern California map, we see all of their progress if you want to see it, and they all converge at a certain point. This is the air tower sequence of getting the guys to land the plane. It's classic. I love it. I love this Dottie Colonel. I love these guys in the background waving the plane off from crashing into them. Here he is, Mr. Chicken himself. Don Knotts gets waylaid by Dr. Meyer here, who tells him that he's a spy and that they're being followed. Here's the police surveillance in the background here, that's a government helicopter and that they're after him. And he uses this excuse to steal Don Knotts' car. Sorry, Don. Meanwhile, everybody has converged. Russell and Hawthorne have met up with Mrs. Marcus and Emmeline and Pike and Sylvester. And there's some crazy car stunts as Hawthorne and Russell are being chased by Sylvester. And it's just some of the best stunt driving you'll ever see. This stunt here of the guys crashing the plane into the airport restaurant is shocking and incredible because I think they actually just fucking did this. I watched this a couple times. There are no cuts in this shot. You watch this airplane roll up the tarmac and then just run into this big window, propellers blazing. All these, I'm assuming, stunt people eating in front of it, very close to this shit flying everywhere in a goddamn airplane coming into this building. And they just did it. They just built this and fucking flew a plane into it, rolled a plane into it. But everybody is in our location now. Thank God, right, everybody? We're in Santa Rosita. This is the, is this Pacific Coast Highway, Carolyn?
Yes.
Is it? Okay.
This is actually, this is actually between Santa Monica going up towards Malibu.
Okay. That means something to California. I have a
that's like
idea.
Santa Monica Pier back there.
Over here, right? Which we see later. The chase goes past the big, that goes onto the pier, right? Goes like past the roller coaster that's out there, I believe.
Well, yeah, it used to be out there. But
this is the other angle. So this is the incline that we were talking about, right? That leads up to the park. This is a beautiful shot. Look at these gorgeous cliffs. California's beautiful. Why are we not there?
Because it's going to fall off the country at some point.
Oh, okay. How does this, have you been in this area, Carolyn? I'm assuming.
Have I been? Yes.
Have you driven this road? Like, have you been here?
Many countless times.
Okay.
Still looks like that.
It still looks like this. Okay. I mean, this is spectacular. All this up here. Oh, I want to go to there.
One of my favorite spots, because I lived in the valley. So, not Oceanside, but it took me about an hour to get to this area. But yes, I liked kind of driving up Pacific Coast Highway and then going to Moonshadows, which is almost to Main Malibu, but it's it's like a cliffside, kind of like a vintage vibe, mid-century modern feel of a bar.
Oh, okay. Okay. Gotcha. That sounds lovely.
Yeah. That's good.
Everybody's here. The Crumps finally escape the goddamn basement using dynamite. And they take some cab. We get some new characters here. We get Rochester, of course, previously mentioned, our representation watch. He has a very distinct, gravelly voice, of course. And then, speaking of distinct voices, we got fucking Columbo's in the house. Peter Falk is here driving this other cab. Columbo, another television legend, of course. Personal favorite. They are taking to the Santa Rosita Park. And now all of our characters converge here with their picks and their shovels and start acting very suspicious and wandering around this park.
Running around.
Yeah, and looking for the big W. Do you guys see it in this shot here?
Yes.
And there is a beautiful reveal of the big W and what it finally is. And we hear a choir of heavenly voices play anytime you see the big W, because this is the real deal, people. This is what dreams are made of. So this entire area that we're looking at here, this was created for the movie. This is just somebody's property, normal desert, like beachfront property. And they put all this grass down and just built all this shit, planted all these trees. Crazy. And this is a funny scene where Sylvester is trying to get a sense of how many people are mixed up in this thing.
Who's he? I don't know. Mama, how many people are mixed up in this thing? Mama, who are they? Cabbies? Mama, this thing's like a convention.
And it's, I think, one of the best lines when he describes this as being like a convention. That has always made me laugh. It will always make me laugh.
By the way, I feel like he and his mother are really only maybe 5 years apart in age.
Yes, he does. They treat him like he is about 20 years old, but he definitely looks to be 50. About 40. Yeah, I mean, he spent some time out in the sun. He's very hairy, and he's meaty. He looks like a meaty, middle-aged, fucking mid-century man, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like she is not as old as they have dressed her.
No, not a bit. Not a bit. They all finally call each other out and just decide, look, no matter what, nobody's leaving this fucking park at this point without some money, so let's all just work together and find it and get it before other people get involved. Culpepper, meanwhile, he's playing his own game, and he's gotten himself involved. So he has set this up. So it's look, I'm going to do the collar solo. Nobody's going to run from they all know they're in trouble. When we find the money,
I don't want anyone present.
Right. If I see another policeman, I'm not going to like it. If I see another policeman. So you all just back off. Now, of course, he's playing his own game, you guys, because now life has fallen apart. His family is destroyed. His pension, no more. His life falls apart very rapidly over the course of a fraction of an afternoon.
This is while the chief of police is trying to get the mayor or whomever to sign off on all of his demands for his pension. And while this is all going on, and the chief of police is like, Culpepper, Culpepper, come in. So we can tell him, like, hey, we fixed this pension shit.
Yes. And it's too late, though. And he has to put in the orders to arrest Captain Culpepper.
It's true.
But first, we got to find this money. So Pike runs into Meyer and starts chasing after him. And as he does, he finally realizes it in the great reveal.
Why, that's it! Sure! Look! It's a big W, I tell you! It's a big W!
Shrishma, what did you think about the big W reveal? Please tell me, as a newbie to this, what are you thinking?
See, that's the thing, right? I wasn't a newbie because I knew it was going to be this W because
the remake uses the straight up big W wholesale.
Yes, and so does the Bollywood.
That's what I mean. Yes.
Yeah. And I can't remember Rat Race, but
just a locker.
I feel like it was an X maybe in the Rat Race. I don't remember, but I knew it was going to be something like this. So I was like, look up, guys, look up. Like, duh.
Okay. Catherine, dare I ask you if you were shocked by the reveal of the big W?
I didn't get this far.
Okay. Catherine, you didn't even find the money.
I'm kind of wondering why they didn't bury it under like the W of the Hollywood sign.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I kind of assumed it would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Missed opportunity, just saying.
Yeah, that would be good. I think
also maybe the Hollywood sign looked like shit at this time period.
Well, that's true. It was not the big deal it is now. That's for sure.
Well, it was a big deal, and then it got shitty, and then it was a big deal again.
Yeah, this is the low period.
The low time. Yeah, that's probably why.
Yeah. So they dig it up. Beautiful shots of our entire cast. Again, what I'm just fascinated by this is how a professional filmmaker makes a film with a bunch of characters in it. This is how we've seen this done poorly in some of our past movies, but like we have 14 characters on the screen right now.
And you can see each one.
You can see everybody. You can see what they're all doing. There are different planes for them to exist on. And the shot itself is beautiful. This is Catalina out here, I believe, Carolyn. Mm-hmm. This is what this all overlooks. Here's the cash. They're very excited about it. Culpepper.
And I'm sorry, this is from a tuna factory?
Tuna factory, Robbie. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. Okay.
$350,000.
All right.
Culpepper reveals himself to be the police and says, look, I'm taking this money, you guys. And he pretends he's going to take it back to the shop. And he's like, you know what, guys? You're not really bad people. You've broken a lot of laws today, sure. But if you went and turned yourselves in, boy, that'd be real sweet of you. So why don't you go ahead and do that? And so they're like, you know what? Okay, sir, we just met you, but we trust you implicitly. And so they get in, they all 13 of them squeeze into 2 cabs. That shit is funny if you're a 10-year-old, sorry. And they keep an eye on Culpepper. They're like, why is he so, like, where were the other police? And like, why does he want to keep things hush hush? And why would he let us go? Like, something doesn't add up. So they're watching him. And they get down to the end of that incline there. He's either going to go back to the shop or he's going to go the opposite direction down to Mexico.
Okay. And by the way, the opposite direction on this road, we are on the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
So please know that he's actually heading north. That direction, if the ocean
with the way he turns, he takes a right instead of a left. Yes.
I'm like, he's not going to Mexico, people. He's going to Malibu. Yes. He's going to have a drink at Moonshadows.
He's going to see you there. Yeah. So here's Pike trying to get into this cab. Here's my anxiety. Don't leave me, guys.
God.
There were so many. Anyway, I just love all this stuff. All these guys crammed in together, sitting on each other's laps. This shit makes me happy. Great stunt driving again as they chase Culpepper. They're off the ground here, these stunt drivers. And these are all filled with stunt people equivalent to the actors. Oh, they've got 7 stunt people sitting in that car. Beautiful Southern California here, the oil fields. Love it.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get out of Santa Monica and you're like heading south, is that yes, you would be passing some like really industrialized factories like that. But when he turns, he's going to Moonshadows in Malibu. He's heading north.
He does have the money for it now. We follow these cabs chasing him. They're on the sidewalk. I always love the hitting the fire hydrant and the water spraying. What I never noticed before, but can see now in widescreen, is that hydrant bounces off this car right here and really fucks it up pretty good. Check it out next time you watch. Meanwhile, we are looking at a lot of signage of downtown.
It still looks just like this. This is like going to like from Santa Monica to like Manhattan Beach.
I got to go to it. They finally, he races back into town. They chase him. So now we're in downtown. In theory, Santa Rosita. They go into a condemned building. They chase him up this building. Again, I just love location of wherever this is. I love seeing ships out in the
leave the lake outside and all the men, and it's just footage of them running up however many floors, 10 floors that this building is. And I'm like, oh my God, make it end.
See, and I love every goddamn second of it. They end up on this, this is a lot of this is model work here. So I'm just appreciating the models by taking this picture. They end up on this broken fire escape that ends up detaching from the building. And meanwhile, a crowd like this, this is a great shot of the city. This is then composited in later. These are all stunt people hanging off of this fire escape. It's amazing.
I do like it when the fireman goes up the ladder and he's like, one at a time.
Oh,
and then he's like yelling at him and he's like, oh, you'll see.
Yeah,
I mean, he climbs all the way down. He's like, fuck you people.
So while they're up there, they, of course, all the money flies out and is spread all over Santa Rosita, and the crowds gathered below. And we just watch. It's really, again, I was surprisingly moved this last night, quite a night for me, I guess. But watching them look down at all that money after all they had gone through, watch it just gone. So sad. I just took this shot because we do have representation watch. By the way, we have a second African-American man who is seen running across the street. This is a great outfit. He's got a little pork pie, got a little, it looks like magenta shirt underneath this. Yeah, it looks great. Anyway, crowds are gathered. Yes, here is the fire truck raising the ladder to get them all. They all get on at the same time, break the truck. The truck then flings them across this square
back and forth.
And we see them see them fall in, again, comical fashion. Here is Sylvester totally eating shit on this huge picnic table. He really destroys all of this food and lands in a cake, and I love it. And then we end with everybody in the hospital. They're all in trouble forever, of course, except for the women who were not involved, and they come see them. They visit this pity party. Ethel Merman slips on a banana peel in classic comedy fashion. This is the ultimate comedy, you guys, and falls ass over tea kettle, and everybody is laughing at her expense. And that is how we end. It's a mad, 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 mad world. Let's just do the business, you guys. Carolyn Naoroz. 1963, Mad Mad World, etc., etc. Do we keep watching this?
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but yes.
Really?
Because I feel like it's the only movie of its kind, and it's so ridiculous, and it's so like anxiety producing.
Yep.
And from like a structure, like I don't like it. I'm not saying that because I like it.
Right.
I'm saying that because like it is so unique in that it starts off at a traditional third act and it just builds from there, and it is so stupid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great. I love it. Obviously, I love that answer. Thank you, Sissy. Shrishma Naik. Mad, 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 mad world. Do we keep watching this thing?
I feel like this is in the same category as some of the, I think the one we watched previously where it's been remade, so we're going to be living with it. I just didn't like this version. Like, I didn't enjoy it per se.
Okay. And you've seen the Bollywood, and you've seen
Rat Race. I've seen the Bollywood, and I've seen Rat Race. Right. So I've seen the format. And I feel maybe if I'd watched this as a kid, I probably would be in the same place as you are.
Mm-hmm.
Would have that that nostalgia with it.
Yeah.
But without that, I was just like, oh, what are these people doing?
Sure. They're just very loud, breaking lots of things. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to have to say no, but I feel like it will live on forever anyway.
Okay. I like that. That's very optimistic of you. And also, I appreciate the respect given. Now, speaking of respect given, Katherine Sherlock. 1963's It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Do we keep watching this?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
So this is time not well spent for you. I'm sure you have a lot of regrets about investing the time that you did, not only watching it, but also talking about it at length here, as we have done. How are you feeling, Katherine? Just in general.
I guess at least I got to know how it ended because I didn't watch that.
Well, you had to save something for yourself, I guess. So
it ended, which is a good thing.
They found the money, but they didn't get to keep it. The end.
Never mind.
So it's a no from you. Obviously, it's a yes for me. This is one of my favorite movies. There's stuff that does not age well. I agree. But for the most part, the rest of the other 3 hours outweighs that stuff, I think. And I like the performances and direction of this movie. Also, I am just totally at the whim of my own nostalgia because I've watched this movie for as long as I can literally remember. So it's a favorite and a yes from me. Let's talk artifacts. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this part of the show, this is what we do on the Patreon. We take an item back with us to keep. Carolyn, do you have an artifact from this film that you would like to put into the boom room in modern times?
I want Sylvester's outfit of the red bathing suit trunks and the white members only jacket, or whatever the jacket is. And I definitely want it with the black bikini on mannequins next to one another dancing. Okay,
I love that. Let's make the mannequins tiki in theme, and let's really make a deal out of it. Okay, beautiful. Shrishi Boo, do you have anything you want to keep from this?
The mini plane that they crashed.
Yeah.
That one.
It's a gorgeous plane, right?
Dingy?
It's a great plane.
Oh.
Dingy and what's his name?
Benji, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Wasn't one of them Dingy?
Yeah, no, Dingy and Benji, yeah.
Oh, Dingy and Benji. Okay, yeah. The plane that they stole. I really like that plane.
Yeah, it's got the cocktails.
With the pilot who isn't drunk would be helpful.
Yeah, of course. Get somebody else and then you have the cocktails while you're flown around in that plane. Yeah, gotcha. I love it. It's essential. Katherine, anything for you?
No.
Okay, great.
No.
Katherine abstains. I could take anything from this movie, of course. What really grabbed me this last viewing, though, was Culpepper's. So this is a real car movie, obviously. Like, if you're a car buff, you want to watch this movie. It's got the best chases, and it has some amazing vehicles from this era, including Captain Culpepper's black Dodge Dart, which he is driving in the end scene. It's just a gorgeous, fucking perfect Dodge Dart, but it's all copped out on the rims and everything. So that's nice. I'm going to take that this time around. Nobody took the money. Interesting. As a bonus, though, I would like to throw in a big W just outside the grounds of the boom room. If we could have that in the back, if we could agree on that, or we can use Catherine's slot for a big W.
Oh, yeah, I want some palm trees in the shape of a W.
Get yourself all dressed up.
I guess that's acceptable.
Thank you, Katherine. I appreciate it.
Katherine will let you have the money that's buried underneath.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Get somebody else to take it out.
5 minutes, but you can't keep it.
Right. Exactly. Guys, this has been quite a journey, both in this movie and then also just the past year. I want to thank all of you, my co-hosts, my international panel of experts. Carolyn, thank you. Shrishma, thank you.
You're
Katherine,
welcome.
Thank you. Solon, thank you. Max, thank you. Murphy, thank you. Brindis, thank you. Got an email from corporate offices from Brindis, by the way. My key card doesn't work there. I can't get into that building anymore. I don't know what she's done, but she has let us know that the show has, at this point, run out of money, which is why we're not going to make any more episodes for a little bit. Apparently, we haven't figured out the profit
finances.
Yeah, we're still sorting through that paperwork. So it's nice of her to let us know that, but also sad because we have to close down for a little bit. So we've learned a lot of shit. We will come back and talk more about this stuff at some point. When? Not sure, but we will keep you posted.
But if you want it, let us know, Kyle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we're doing this for Kyle right, at this point, right? So Kyle, number one, you. But hey, you can be your own Kyle and write to us at partyline@oldmovietimemachine.com. Send us things that maybe you want us to talk about or review. We'd love to, or just say hi. We'll say hi back, of course. We love you guys. Thank you for tuning in to this week in and week out. Most of the time, I mean, assuming we put out an episode. We're going to have a little summer vacay, though, and we're going to chill out. And until then, please follow us on the socials at Time Machine Podcasts. We have the Patreon, of course, the Boom Room. All these links are in the show notes for the episode. YouTube is very hot right now, you guys. I don't know if you've heard of this platform, but there's video involved. And we have made videos of our shows, and they are on YouTube. So please subscribe to that. Follow. We can put some clips up pretty soon. And hey, everybody, just have a great, safe year. You know, have a great summer. Shrishma, do you have something? Yeah.
I would like to say thank you for taking us on this amazing journey that I didn't know I needed to go on. But
and
sometimes
we're still not sure we needed to go on it.
Yeah.
No. But also, you don't realize there's a lot of things in the past that inform the future. So it was interesting to see some of those concepts and dislike all of them, but still worth the lesson.
Right. I mean, and that's I think where most people are going to live, like after this experience. If you're following along with us, it's like a lot of this is objectionable, and yet it's all just like clues of how we got to where we are today, right?
All right, kids, I am so sorry to like put a damper in the heartfelt stuff, but I was really happy to see Solon's little butt. Yeah, just in the camera. It was fun, and I gotta go.
We all gotta go, sis. So
it's Friday, and I have shit I've got to do.
We all do. So have a great summer, everybody. Thank you, listeners. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Now, we give shares to everybody and for everything. Now, there were eight of us. Now, that's 8 shares for that. Then there were 4 vehicles. Now, we give 4 shares for that. That's 12 shares already, right? Then there were 5 of us who went down to the wreck. Now, we give 5 shares for that. So that makes it 17, all right? Now, 17 shares, and then we add the same number of shares as there were people in each vehicle, right? That's 3 for your group, 2 for your group, and 2 for us, and 1 for you, right? Now, that adds up to 25 shares. Now, 25 into 350,000 is $14,000 per share. Now, figuring at that would mean you would get 3 shares for being 3 people, 1 share for having the car, 1 share for going down and looking at the wreck, and 3 more shares for being 3 more people in the car, which would give you a total of 8 shares, giving you $112,000.
And that should cover everything, including the emancipation of women.